Hello and welcome to this episode of Kaleidoscope, the podcast. My guest today is Anda. Anda is all the way from Canada, and so we're going truly international now. Um, Anda and I have been friends for 5 years, 6 years, maybe 5 years. We met again through the Priority Academy doing EFT tapping and things like that, and we practiced on each other doing NLP. And I think I did breakthrough coaching with you, and you did EFT with me, and our lives have kind of, like the double helix of the DNA, we kind of keep coming back and meeting each other again when we've retrained on something else, and we keep swapping skills for all this time. And someday, who knows, we might actually get to meet in person, which would be fab. Um, and the four questions are the podcast is all about change and transformation. And the four questions are: what was life like before the change? What was life like during the change? After the change? And what does the future hold? Not that any of us have crystal balls, but we know what we'd like to do and what we might be doing in the next month or so. So I'm going to pass it over to you now for you to tell your story. And you're most welcome.
All right. Okay. Perfect. Hi, everybody. So I've been thinking about which story to tell because I feel there's like a lot of, it's like a golden thread that weaves through our lives, right? So it's hard to isolate. But for me, what stands out the most painful, the kind of dark night of the soul moment in my life was 2017 when I was with my ex, the father of my two children. I had just recently discovered again that he had been cheating while I was pregnant with our son. Um, and of course, in hindsight, the question is, why on earth did I stay? Like, like, why do you stay in a situation like this? And I've grappled with that a whole lot. And I think the thing was also that my mom was a single mom, and I had always sworn to myself that I would do better, that I would have a partner and a long-term relationship. I wanted many children, and I thought, I will make it work, and I'm not going to run out at the first sign of trouble. But there were so many signs. But then I kept kind of um, sorry, my cat, of course. Uh, I kept kind of making up excuses, like he will change, or he has a reason for this, or I have to change. I'm a very kind of I self-question, and I try to work on my issues. So I thought, if I change, he will change. But obviously that's just, unfortunately, most of the times not how it works. Yeah, so 2017, I'm like absolutely desperate. I had lost lots and lots of weight. I was kind of a shadow of myself, and had lost all belief in my mental capacities. Like, he had told me enough times that I was dumb and had no common sense and was stupid, that all my friends are stupid. I had become isolated, and yeah, I was believing all the lies that I was being told. And so I wanted to save this relationship for whatever absurd reasons. And so I spent my last money on a trip to Miami. Well, no, Orlando, like Florida. Anyway, it was like, yeah, it was at a friend of his villa. So we went there with the kids, and it was just me and him at the beach. This was like a lake overlooking the fireworks, like Disney fireworks. It could have been so beautiful, so romantic. And we're standing there, and he just looks into my eyes, and he's like, "You're just this big nothing. Like, you're just this worthless piece of trash." And it was like this awakening. Like, it was like as if someone had come and poured water over my head. And it was like, wait a minute, like, I am not a worthless piece of trash. Like, and something switched. It was just like, I'm not standing for this anymore. And like, yeah, it was just, I cannot put it any other way. There was just, it was like a switch was turned in my brain. And all of a sudden, I was like not willing anymore to go along with this. When we got back to Montreal, I started packing my bags and looking for a new home for me and the kids. And by August 2017, I moved out with the kids. And at first, was, it was, it was pretty. It was actually really amazing. Like I just felt so free, and like there wasn't this dark cloud hovering over me anymore, telling me every day like how bad I was and how I made like everything worse. And um, yeah, and I think for the first 6 months or so, it was just like excitement over like, okay, like I'm free from this. I don't have to beg for money anymore because I had quit my jobs when I had the kids and was like relying on his money, and like it was always like he could spend it on anything and I would have to beg for every penny. Like it was just like the classic like setup, but when I think like when you slip into an abusive relationship and I mean, I had never really been in one before and I just didn't know. Like there were so many telltale signs that I didn't know them. And also in hindsight, I was kind of recreating the dynamic between my grandparents, like where my grandmother had given up everything and my grandfather had become the kind of controlling authoritarian person. I mean, he wasn't abusive, but he was controlling. And so it's like, I think subconsciously I was recreating this pattern. Yeah. And by early 2018, I started to have another kind of like at this point physical breakdown. Like I was starting to have, like my face was swelling up and I think what was really happening was that it was like a severe case of like maybe shingles. Like it was never properly diagnosed. Like I went to many people, but it was just like it was spreading across my face. Like I looked like I was actually beat up and it was like swollen and it would burst open and there was stuff oozing out. And I would walk down the street like hiding, like wearing glasses, like a scarf and a hat and my hair. Like it was like a year of like um it was really difficult. Like I felt just so terrified that like they couldn't figure out what was wrong. I was developing like chronic fatigue, like I could barely like walk them to school. And um I mean, it's surprising that it took until maybe 2019 that the nurse was actually like, you have severe like complex PTSD, like this needs to be addressed, and so I started to I started to read about it and it made sense. Like it all started coming together for me because there was such a history of like untreated war trauma from my grandparents. My um my mom had gotten pregnant very young and my father was like an Iranian refugee who disappeared like the second he got her pregnant, and so she hid the pregnancy. And I was this dirty secret that she was so terrified of. So I was imprinted with this. Like as soon as I came out, I was already feeling like I shouldn't exist. And many things happened in my life that kind of led to more PTSD, like more activation, like of my nervous system, but no one ever really, I would go to therapy, but like there wasn't ever anyone who's like, oh my God, like let's look at your history and figure out how to heal body, mind, and spirit. It was always like, let's talk about your problems. And I mean, the problems have the root in the past. And I feel like that was the missing piece. So 2018, then I just kind of, it was like a daze, like that whole year, and so much fear over like, what if I die and my kids are all alone? And like, how's their dad gonna take care of them? Like, I mean, um, he's not out the picture, but he normally just spends like a day or so with them during the week. And like there was a lot of fear over what would happen to them. And in the end, like I just really started to pray, which I had never really done, to be honest. Like I was raised Catholic, but then kind of rejected that like very early onwards. Like it just felt, it didn't feel aligned with who I was. Like I feel like maybe even at 8 or 9, I was like, this is not right, you know? But um, at that point, then I was really like, I was like talking out loud, like when I would be alone in the apartment, I was just like, God, like, come on, like, this can't be it. Like, I need help. And one day I really like was sitting here crying and I was just like, I'll do anything you have me do. Give me my purpose and make this awful feeling stop. And I remember going in the shower, and in the shower, I was like, hey, I should Google if there's a course for spiritual coaches. Like, and it's like, I never even thought of like a spiritual coach, but I looked it up and I found a great one with Transformation Academy and enrolled and started studying. And it was so fulfilling. And then a couple of days after that, I was like, oh, what helped me when I was feeling really bad? Oh, my friend was doing this tapping thing. I think it's called tapping, like EFT something. And I Googled that and I came across, Graham Nichols and started studying that. Um, and then the last thing that then really changed everything was like I had gone for a massage and the woman had put a tuning fork on my arm at some point, and I had never felt anything like that. It had been like electricity going and switching on something in my body that had never been switched on. So I thought, my God, is this a thing? Like tuning forks for healing? And of course, I found courses and I ordered my first set, and it was literally like, I mean, it is the most incredible thing. Like, I haven't stopped doing this since I think it started 2019, early 2019, every day. Sometimes 10 hours a day, I work the with sound because it has just been revealing more and more ways of healing with it. First it was just working on the energy body and like just sitting there and working with sound, like finding the spots in my own energy field that sounded off and shifting those, and then, oh, well, if this works on me, it must work on others, like starting to do it on others. That's when we also did the group healings, because I started to think, okay, well, if I can do it in person from my Reiki training, I know this should work at a distance. Then, I started organizing distance groups to try it out, and it was just incredible. And like one thing just led to another. Like it just, I cannot put it any other way, but it's like there is this wisdom that is guiding me to keep on doing things. Every time I become kind of competent in one thing, like, okay, I feel super competent in working with the chakras. Like I am absolutely at ease, like doing, biofield work on anyone, like for anything, whether it's physical or emotional. Then the next thing reveals itself. Hey, it's like these downloads that show me like, now you need to try this with something else. If it works on a kind of hologram, I would say, if you can create a hologram of a person's energy field, like with the chakras, how about you try this for a human design chart? Maybe the human design chart can be worked on energetically. Try it. It is unbelievable, the breakthroughs. Work with that, and open the world of human design to me. Then I feel like that becomes integrated, and then the next thing opens up astrology, which for me is actually, I feel like that has been I feel like I've come home to my true calling now, like combining um astrology with sound healing. And there's again more things opening up. At first, it was, oh, let me work on the chart itself, which, if I knew nothing about astrology like 8 months or so ago, and it was just like the knowledge just becomes absorbed like a sponge, which is like I've never felt anything like this. It's like the wisdom wants to be integrated, and I follow it, and then it leads me to new discoveries. So with the natal chart, I've discovered like it really exists as a potential for our soul, and it holds this wisdom. It shows us the areas of our life, that need the work done. It shows us how to work, and it has this like magical quality about it where it's almost like you're clearing the blueprint of your structure of your life, and then because you're changing it energetically, everything in your life changes. Like your friendships change, your career changes, how you view yourself, your body changes. It's like, yeah, it's been the most magical experience. So I feel like allowing myself to fall onto my feet rather than just kind of burying my head in the sand when things got really hard has been the most like rewarding thing I've ever experienced. I mean, in my family, there is just this pattern of dissociation, of denial, of secrecy, and um, I think that's like what I learned how you deal with problems. Like my grandfather had a grenade blow up half his face, so it was always like anyway he was shot in the chest. Like so, anytime anything would go wrong with me as a kid, like I grew up with my grandparents in the same house, like if there's anything. You slice off your finger by accident. Like it's like, well, you're not dead, so stop crying. Like you're alive. Like and I understand it. Like, I mean, they lived through horrific things, but what that did was that I had zero awareness of my body. I felt like I actually felt most of my life like just a head walking around, like without a body. And what this like kind of dark night of the soul moment did to me is like it forced me to feel into my body, to drop into my body, to become anchored in my body, to feel the pain. What's going on with the face? Like, and why is everything feeling bad from the chronic fatigue, um, and to listen because the symptoms tell a story, right? Like, and I feel like I feel like that is the biggest teaching that I got from this. Like that when you dare to listen to the symptoms, when you dare to like open the door on the thing that is the scariest, then the rewards are just so incredible. Yeah, yeah. I feel like
Thank you so much. So what does the future hold?
so to like I'm gonna be super transparent. Like my biggest I think what the future holds right now is confronting the biggest obstacle of my life, and that's visibility. I've been working like I would say 98% of people I've worked with were referrals. Like someone had a treatment and it was incredible. Like someone did one of my courses and everything changed, and then they tell someone else. But showing up online has been terrifying. Putting myself out there, going anywhere in person has been, yeah, has not been working for me. And I've been confronting this for the last 2 months now to understand what's happening, and um, that led me to uncover so much in my own family history again about people who died and were never talked about again because it was too painful. So there's like this real theme of invisibility and of life cut short, that runs through my family. You know, my mom got pregnant at 20 and hid the pregnancy. She went into labor and no one knew she was pregnant. Like her water broke on the steps of the house, and her younger sister was like, "Oh my God, you're having a baby." So I was the dirty, dark, shameful secret that she hid, and that kind of ruined her life. Like, in yeah, I mean, of course I didn't really, but like, to be honest, like that's what it's felt like most of my like early years, that um she didn't know how to handle this. Like she was just too shy to like to stand there and say, okay, I embrace this kid. Like, so there was always this like hiding, like there was more hiding, you know. And the fact like my father disappeared, another invisible person like in my life, you know. And actually only when I started to work with like sound and ancestors, um did I like I actually it's pretty magical. Like I first worked on my grandfather because I started to have the thing with my face again like a couple of months ago, where I was like, oh my God, like this thing is happening again. And I was sitting across from a photograph of my grandparents, and I was like, this is incredible. Where I had the problem with my face, where it would swell and burst open, is exactly where the grenade had blown away his face. So I was like, okay, I'm going to try to see if I can work on a dead person, which, you know, until that moment, I had only worked on living people. So really crazy stuff happened as I was working on him. Like for a few days, I started to like get rashes where he had the gunshot wounds, and my face was really morphing. Like I took pictures of it because it was very crazy. And yeah, so then that started to feel better and it felt like complete. And then all of a sudden I was like, even if I don't know my dad, maybe by just having the intention of working on my dad, I could work on him. So I did. And I woke up the next morning to a message on Ancestry. Hi, I think we're cousins. So it was a first cousin from my father's side saying like, do you have any Iranian ancestors? And I said, yes, like this man like is my father, his name is Kaywan. And she's like, that is my uncle. So that was just really just a magical moment for me, and that showed me like, wow, this work, it works, you know. I mean, I'm still doubtful. I'm such a sciencey person. I've gone down so many rabbit holes about quantum physics and all kinds of stuff to understand how this can actually work. And then there's moments like that that are like, yep, this is working. You worked on your dad, and the next moment you finally come across him, you know. But turns out he's dead. He died 2 years ago. So
Gosh, so
yeah,
soon too.
it was hard, you know. It was like, wow, I had to confront this like fantasy, like this little girl fantasy that I had carried my whole life of like, one day I will find him and he will be my dad, you know. But yeah, so again, this whole thing of like, uh, yeah, healing this hiding, you know. There's no trace of this man. He left no digital footprint. Like you cannot find him. I've googled every version. I had Iranian friends who would, you know, write it uh, like in Farsi, like whatever. Like there was no way to find this man. So like there has just been a thing of invisibility, and like I've noticed this self-sabotaging pattern in my life that every time something seems to be going well and I'm about to become visible, something crazy happens and stops it. Like from you know, in 2019 or 20, no, it was early 2020, I got hired to do this like cover, like I do illustration work as well, like to do a cover for the city of Montreal, like for a brochure that never got published. I made the cover, I got paid, but it never got published because of COVID. Um, I made well, I'm an illustrator and an artist. I made these look-alike dolls that were used in this huge, like there was like 20,000 people or something. It was a puppet thing, and like at some point they called, and I was there the whole evening to wait and to watch. And I went out for 2 minutes, and it's in those 2 minutes that were like, we'd like to call the person who made these dolls on stage and show you who made them. So it's like there is like a sabotage around being seen. Like there is just this like terror of what's going to happen if I'm found out. So when you ask what the future holds, I feel like this is the Mount Everest of my life that I'm climbing right now, healing this absolute inner terror of being visible, being found out, that so clearly isn't mine. Like I can understand now it's not mine. And this also led me to really research all this like ancestry imprint that leaves this like invisible legacy on our energy bodies that keeps us trapped in self-sabotaging patterns, you know. So I feel like again it led me into uh, an even deeper awareness of my calling. So right now I'm working on putting together an extensive course, like a self-paced course that helps you work through this, like by listening to energy healings, yeah, around all the themes that kind of feed into how we self-sabotage, like our voice, how we hide who we really are, how we don't take up space, and uh yeah, and changing this to like allowing ourselves to be seen, allowing ourselves to take up authentic space. So yeah, I mean, that's as far as I can see. I'm visualizing, of course, being comfortable being out in the world and not hiding in my apartment anymore, you know?
Brilliant. Brilliant. So I didn't actually write down an awful lot about, so sometimes I write down when you're talking. And one of the things I was going to pick up on is it's strange it was the side of your face and then your grandfather. So
Yeah.
I'm glad you went back to cook because I'm thinking, oh, there's a connection there somewhere.
Uh-huh.
Um, but one of the things you said was about going for counselling and things like that and talking about the problems. And as we both know, trauma doesn't live in the logical brain where we can talk about it. So you can get to it. Again, we both know you've studied psychology. You have a degree in psychology, is
I
it?
started doing like I did 1 year. Like I did Psych 101, like art therapy, and like several courses, but I never finished it because it was
No,
just,
but
it felt
you've
unsatisfying in comparison to the work I do.
yes, but you've studied it to a level, so you know, you and I both having studied this know that you can get to trauma by talking, but it takes an awfully, 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 awfully long time. And for some trauma, you cannot get to it by talking because it lives in the body, it lives in the nervous system, it lives in the it's a reaction. It's your body reacting. It's not, it's a part of your mind that believes that thing is happening to you right now. And you
Yes.
can't get to it by talking, not usually, unless you're somebody very, very skilled and you take an awful long time to do it. You don't really get to it. So that I wanted to go back to that, talking about the problem. We know that doesn't work. It works for everyday things and for upsets and people annoying you. And, I'm not saying talking therapy doesn't work. It does, but not for trauma.
I think that's the thing. It works as in it helps you see the connections, and it can help you understand where you have to go deeper to do the healing. But the healing has to happen in your body. And even that, the physical body, we know from biofield science research now, is being programmed by this by the energy field around it. So when you work with the energy field, that's when you can heal the body and the mind and the spirit, Anyway,
Yeah.
it's like I mean, many roads lead to Rome, but I think,
Yes.
you know,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, absolutely, no, absolutely. And that's why you and I train in all these things, and you get this, and then it's how do we use this together? And where you're doing more of the sound energy for me, it's um which one of the things that I do is most appropriate for the person that I'm working with right now, which resonates with them, do you know? So um I look forward to your next course. Um so to our last little questions, because that was the only observation I had was the talking therapy, because I was glad you went back and talked about your grandfather and the side of the face, because that was an obvious one for me that actually, but um
that's really
so
interesting how it's like obvious for you, right? But like being in it, it wasn't obvious for me.
no, no,
It took so
absolutely.
long to be like, wow, wait a minute, like this is, yeah. So
Yeah.
that's where sometimes
We
it helps to be with other people in the situation.
I was going to say, but that's how we know that from working with people. They will come to us and they will sit and they will tell us the story. And they'll tell us the story that they've been telling themselves and everybody else. And it's only with that, I use neuro-linguistic programming type questions, those powerful questions, that we get to the point where actually we usually get to the truth. And it's a real
Mhm.
light bulb moment for them. We know that because we do this work. But for the
Um,
person living in it, it is a real light bulb moment. And that's
yes,
why for some people, they come to me once
I know.
because in that one conversation and the powerful questioning all around, they get to what the crux of the problem is
Yes,
because they can't see it because they're in the middle of the forest and you can't see the trees when you're in the middle of the forest. Do you know?
yes,
Um, well, that's why I love this work. I love this work because we tell everybody the story we're most comfortable telling about what our problem is because it's uncomfortable sitting
yes,
in the messy middle, going to the dark night of the soul. Like, me and my little butterfly for the dark night of the soul, deciding. And for me, I didn't decide either. It happened to me. My breakdown happened to me. Um, but staying there and sitting with the pain and then deciding to do the healing work, it's hard. It
yes.
is hard. And you and I know we've met people all through this who will not do the work
I
because
know.
it's painful.
But I think there's fear. I think a lot of times people are afraid to go there because they think it's too painful to open the door. But
Yeah.
really, it's I've never um I've never come across it actually being worse to open the door. Like it's always like, okay, there's a moment of discomfort, there's moments of despair, reliving emotions that you probably shut down in the moment when the bad thing happened. But yeah, just having the courage to just confront it and feel it, then you're free. It's like it really is this backpack thing, right? Like you're just taking out stuff out of the backpack, and you're able to take up space and not be held back and weighed down by these like suppressed memories anymore. So
Yeah.
yeah, highly recommend it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So do I. So our last three questions then are, um, and you can answer all three or just one of them, whatever works for you. Your favorite book, your favorite phrase, or what you would tell your younger self.
Okay, my favorite book right now, at least, it didn't start with you, um, because it I think it's just a phenomenal work. Like he tells so many stories that show you how the past impacts the present. But then he also gives so many visualization techniques. Like every chapter has so many really powerful but really simple exercises that if you work through this book, and it's not long, it's maybe 220 pages, like your life can be completely different by the end of it. And I really also love the fact that he the opening section is all about like the latest research on how there really is a family. It's like I call it the family iCloud. It's just this like thing that we are all connected to and that we download from, and that, you know, just like I don't know how you are, I have no idea what's in my iCloud. It's like I'm always surprised. I'm like, whoa, this is in my iCloud, you know. So to me the iCloud thing really works, because I'm always like, really, like, of course I'm acting like this, like look at what was there. So I like the analogy. um my favorite quote, I was thinking about this yesterday, I really think it's I can't remember word for word, but it's Carl Jung, and kind of saying that like when you're like um, whatever you're not consciously aware of, like in like the content of your subconscious mind that you're not aware of, you experience as fate, because you think that like this is all just happening, yet you know we create our reality by what we focus on, by the lens through which we view the world, and of course like if you believe in law of attraction, also by the kind of resonance of your overall energy field. And all of that is largely created by our subconscious mind, right? I mean, we know like the tip of the iceberg, 5% conscious mind thing cannot be the thing that creates all of this. So yeah, I love that quote. And yeah, what would I tell my younger self? I think I would tell her, just take up space, have more fun, be bold, stop worrying about what other people think, and what you focus on grows.
Very good. And those are the things then you need to say back to yourself even now. Because your younger self is still in there and she needs to hear all that, doesn't she? Have more fun.
My God, yeah, I love that.
And thank you so much for your time today and your vulnerability and telling us your story. I really appreciate it. We'll maybe get you back on in a year's time and see how you're doing with your visibility, whether you've got out there and
Oh my gosh, pressure. Yes, I'd love that. And thanks for having me.
take care. Thank you.
Thank you.